And I think people need to realize that people are gonna talk shit, they're gonna criticize. But what's more important? What's more important is that you do what it is you think you need to do instead of changing your path for everybody else's happiness. Because the reality is the people who judge you on doing anything different are the same people who can't do it themselves.
Every pursuit, no matter how glamorous it may seem, no matter how exciting it feels to you, no matter how much you feel like you were born to do it, comes with a shit sandwich. And so the question is not, what do I love? The question is, what do I love so much that I don't mind eating the shit sandwich that comes along with that thing? So for me in my life, writing is the thing that I love. And the shit sandwich was the 7 years that I was not getting published and that I was coming home from my job as a diner waitress, as a bartender, as an au pair, as somebody who worked in flea markets, as a cook. And I was coming home tired and smelling like other people's French fries and sitting down and doing my real job, which was to write. And then to go to the mailbox the next day and get another rejection letter. And then say, do I still want to do this? Because this sandwich sucks.
Like, am I ready to take another bite?
You know, and I did still want to do it. And now even as somebody who makes their living as a writer, there's no end to the shit sandwiches. It's like, oh, hello, horrible review in prominent newspaper. That's your shit sandwich today, Liz. You still want to do this work?
Yep.
Yeah, I still do. Still worth it. Like, hello, awful comment on social media from somebody who thinks you're a pile of dog shit. You know, and just has like chosen every possible way that they cannot get it out of their system fast enough, how much disregard they have for your entire life.
Yep.
Still want to do this thing? Yeah, I still want to do it. You know, so that's the question. Because if the first time you encounter the shit sandwich, you're like, well, this isn't worth it, then that's not the thing you're supposed to be doing.
Yes.
And there are plenty of things in life that I have run into the shit sandwich and I've been like, so not worth it. So not worth it. Like, this is not, I don't want to do this. Like, whatever the alleged benefits of this thing might be, no.
Not down for this.
Soul cycle, no. You know, like, I know it's probably really good for me, but I feel like throwing up right now because this is too hard.
I'm out.
You'll not be seeing me here again. You know, like, and I love my sisters at Soul Cycle. I just don't like feeling like I'm going to throw up when I exercise. So it's not for me, you know? And so that's the question. So if you go into this thing thinking, if I follow my bliss and I live my dream and I stand in my truth, then everything will be great. It doesn't mean everything will be great. It just means at the end of the day, when you check in with yourself and you go, in the end, on the balance, is this still better than not doing it? And the answer is still, yeah, this thing is still better than not doing it, then you're on the right path.
My first gig out of college was on Wall Street, on the New York Stock Exchange. This is pre everything. This is like just out of college, 21 years old, and I knew one of my drives, I wanted to be really successful, but not just to like get shoes. I knew I wanted to make money because I wanted to make a difference. I wanted to be able to take care of my family. I wanted to be able to contribute to causes that I believe in. And so I knew in order to do that, in my own mind, I was like, well, I want to make a lot of money and make this stuff happen. But when I was on Wall Street, even though so many people that I worked with, multi-millionaires, I mean, the money was ridiculous. While they were financially rich, they were spiritually bankrupt. And I felt like there was a part of me that was dying inside. And I said, this is not my path. I don't know what my path is, but I need to leave this because I feel sick. And so I think many people feel like that. You can find yourself in job and job and job, and you want to do great work in the world. You're giving it your best, but some little voice inside is saying, this isn't me. This isn't me. And I kept having that voice until finally I left the corporate world and started my own business.
I think it's important for people to understand that anytime you step out of what's normal in society, you're going to have criticism. So many people follow the traditional plan with no thought whatsoever as to what they really want to do in life. You know, they go to school, they go to high school, they go to college, they get a degree, they get married, they have kids, and then they wake up at 40 years old wondering what the fuck happened and where did my life go? And when I think about those things, I think about how much criticism we got when we started our first company when we were only 19 years old to do all the things that you're supposed to do in society. You know, all the people that used to tell us, you guys are wasting your time, you need to get a degree, you need to get a real job, you need to quit, you know, wasting your time with this hobby. And those are the same people now that, you know, they're telling us how good of a job we did and how proud we are. And I think about that a lot. And I think people don't realize that the same criticism that they get for doing anything outside of what's considered normal, that goes for anybody that tries anything outside of what's normal. And I think people need to realize that people are gonna talk shit, they're gonna criticize. But what's more important? What's more important is that you do what it is you think you need to do instead of changing your path for everybody else's happiness. Because the reality is the people who judge you on doing anything different are the same people who can't do it themselves. And I feel like so many people get so wrapped up into what other people think that they ruin their entire lives living a life that they don't even want to live. Everybody's got to find their own path. And you have to realize that when you get on that path, you're going to fuck up. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to have bad fuck-ups, like really bad. But as long as you're willing to learn and you're willing to take those as lessons about, and you're smart enough to not make those same mistakes over and over and over again, there's really nothing that you can't do.
And then I finally won a contest, first thing I've ever won in my life. The thing I won fell on my graduation day, so I chose to open up for EPMD and Kwame and all those people at Kemper Arena in Kansas City, Missouri, rather than walk across the stage right up the street where all my partners were graduating. And that's when I knew what I was gonna do for the rest of my life. You know, your graduation day, you get your diploma and you choose something else, and then you end up doing what you planned on doing, and you're young, and it's not written in blood that you're gonna make it, and you move from house to house because you ran away from home at 17. You move from place to place with family members and friends and everything, trying to do music, and then you end up doing it. Then you end up on the Forbes list and working with all the people that inspired you, like Ice Cube and the Doors and Roger Troutman, and you know, it's wonderful. You know what I'm saying? So that was the most monumental to me.
While traditional paths may seem harder to find, that also means that you may learn sooner than most generations the hard lesson that you must always make the path for yourself. There is no secret society out there that will tap you on the shoulder one night and show you the way. Because the true secret is your life will not be defined by the society that we have left you. To paraphrase Robert Bolt, society has no more idea of what you are than you do, because ultimately, it has only your brains to think with. Every generation must define itself, and so make the world that suits itself. So, if you must find your own path, and we have left you no easy path, then decide now to choose the hard path that leads to the life and the world that you want.
Well, that's Lena McGlynn, like my second mother, and she's a pastor and everything. My music teacher in high school. In high school, my freshman year, I was starting on Kenwood's basketball team, which is the name of my high school. And but I happened to have a music class. at that point in time, I wasn't, I think I was about 16, 17, I was not interested in music. I was really trying to be the next Michael Jordan, of course. And she told me that I would sing, you know, I would be the next Stevie Wonder or Superstar, or Michael Jackson or something like that. And I laughed at her like she was crazy, you know. I couldn't see it. And everything I am today, she could see it, my mother could see it, and she would tell me that I was gonna be where I'm at today and even further. So, and it just happened. She put me in a talent show, and I did the talent show, and the girls were screaming and everything, and I was like, man, I don't get this kind of love on the court, you know. And of course, I'm gonna choose that over basketball, and I did, and I've been doing it ever since. I would say my big break is that point in time I learned that Stevie Wonder riff. That was one of the steps, because I felt like, man, if I learned that, I can learn anything, because that guy was going pretty fast. But as far as crowd-wise and what nailed it, I would say my first talent show pretty much is what bit me in a way. Like Peter Parker got bit by the spider and became Spider-Man. You know, that was the bite for me. You know, when the women and everybody was showing me so much love at the talent show, and I won, and you know, I was like, wow, it was overwhelming.
So it's easy to have ideas. It's very hard to turn an idea into a successful product. There are a lot of steps in between, and it takes persistence, relentlessness. So I always tell people who are, you know, who think they want to be entrepreneurs, you need a combination of stubborn relentlessness and flexibility. And you have to know when to be which. And basically, you need to be stubborn on your vision, because otherwise it'll be too easy to give up. But you need to be very flexible on the details, because as you go along pursuing your vision, you'll find that some of your preconceptions were wrong, and you're going to need to be able to change those things. So I think taking an idea successfully all the way to the market and turning it into a real product that people care about and that really improves people's lives is a lot of hard work.
My assistant's got a great thing now in this. Once in every 4 months, somebody sends an email saying, I've got a huge startup that I want you to invest in, but you've got to sign this NDA, right? Which literally every time gets an email back that says, F you, right? And the reason is, I'm a humongous believer that ideas are shit and that execution's the game, right? We've all got ideas. Everybody's got ideas. Do you mean ideas we all have here? We could probably sit here for the next 2 hours, draw them all out, record them, and predict the next 78 great startups over the next 9 years. And so I think the thing that is another theme in entrepreneurship is there is way too much fodder brought to the idea. Uber was Magic Cab 3 years earlier. Uber is not an idea. Uber existed. It's called Magic Cab. But the guys that executed it sucked. So they lost. So I think, you know, if there's any level of romance left in this room about your idea, I'd like to suffocate it. Because I think the actual situation is what you actually do with it.
The reality is, reading a book or going to a conference or having a great conversation where you get this golden information, that's all fantastic. But what makes mastery is execution on the ideas, not the ideas. And so no idea works unless you're willing to roll up your sleeves, do the practice, invest the time, put in the effort, do the work. I think we've all observed a lot of people who, they love reading the books, they love showing up at the courses, they do all the online training, and nothing ever changes. And they say, well, you know, I don't know why it doesn't change, why my life doesn't change, why my thinking doesn't change, why my performance doesn't change, why my relationships don't change. Well, it's because ideas don't work if you don't execute on them. So if you look at the great business builders, you look at any great performer, one thing that makes them great is their grit. One thing that makes them great is their hunger to practice. One thing that makes them great is they are willing to sacrifice. I mean, yes, they're passionate, but did you know the root of the word passion is suffering? You've got to be willing to suffer for your vision. You've got to be willing to suffer to reach BIW, best in world. You've got to be willing to suffer the ridicule and laughter of your critics and your cynics to get to a place called world class.
I knew I wanted to be in show business, and I just happened to luck out and things happen. I think if you know what you're supposed to do, deep down inside, I think everybody does. And a lot of people just don't go after it, you know? And like most people start out, they say, I want to be a this, but I'm going to get that to make sure I have something to fall back on. Yeah. And what you're doing is you're setting yourself up for failure, because you're going, there's a possibility that I'm going to fall back. And when you put that out there, then you fall back. But if you just say, hey, this is what I want to do, and you go do it, you usually get your stuff the way you want it, man. That's what...
The way of the entrepreneur is actually about looking at the world and finding problems. It's actually, some people think that's a negative mindset, but actually I find it is like it's a curious mindset. Is you're out there looking for problems, looking for things that aren't the way they should be or could be. Okay, you got a good idea. Look, everybody's got a good idea.
Yeah.
You know, now okay, everybody has an idea. Not everybody has a good idea, but lots of people have good ideas. Look, Uber is a good idea. You push a button and get a ride. I don't know if we were the first person to ever think of that idea, but we were the first person to do it. And so you gotta just go do it then. You gotta just get out there and go do it. So it's easy to have the idea, or straightforward, but then you've gotta have enough guts to go out there and try. And that's the way of the entrepreneur.
You need to execute, and you need to execute as fast as possible. Because the thing at the end of the day is, whether you feel you have competitors or not, sooner or later you're gonna have someone, and if you can't move fast enough, someone's gonna beat you to the punch. So make sure whatever you're doing, you get something out within a month or two. If it takes you longer than that, you're taking way too long. I created this company called Surf, and it was in Rockwell, Texas, right by Dallas. And I had this brilliant idea. Have any of you guys heard of the Media Temple grid server solution? That was my idea a year or two before it came out. And I spent $1 million on it, trying to actually do that idea before Media Temple. The funny thing is that I didn't have $1 million, so I actually had to borrow $1 million. And I spent it on business partners who moved really slow and really weren't the best at what they did. Within 12 months, we launched nothing. They also had some of the problems in my previous slide, right? Like financial instability, and they had a family and kids of, I think, like 6. So I even bought them a home in Rockwell, Texas that cost $200 and something thousand. Why did I buy it instead of renting it? I have no clue. I was stupid and young. But nonetheless, I lost over $1 million on that, of borrowed money, not investor money, but borrowed money that I had to pay back. And it failed miserably because we never launched anything. If you can't launch something, someone like Media Temple is going to beat you to the punch, get a ton of customers, and make a lot of money. So lessons I learned from that: set deadlines. No matter what, you have to set deadlines. People have to be held accountable to them as well, right? You can't just set a deadline, it passes, nothing happens. Someone better be meeting them. If not, something has to change. You also need to make sure they're small. If the deadline, if the milestones, goals are too big for those deadlines, they're not gonna get met. So make them really small and tangible. That way you can see it really well in advance if they're actually gonna be met or not. And last but not least, don't worry about perfection. A lot of people are like, dude, I'm gonna create the most perfect version of, whatever it may be. That software has a lot of bugs, mine's gonna be perfect. Perfection is overrated. Nothing's ever perfect. You're going to continue to have to iterate, so forth, so on. It's never going to be perfect. There's always going to be issues. Just get it out there and start trying to make money.
You know, the 5%, yeah, I said, 5% of the challenge is a strategy, 95% of the execution. This, I said it as CEO of Nissan, I said it also as CEO of Renault, and I said it as Deputy CEO of Renault. When I said it the first time, it was mainly in France, and I was to the top management of Renault in France, because there was a tendency in the company to spend too much time on strategy and leave the execution for other people. And this is where I said, yeah, strategy is fine, it's very important, but it's only 5%. If you don't go to execution after this, the delivery and the performance of the company is going to be very weak. I really believe it. Now, it doesn't mean strategy is not important, but when you establish North, and you know exactly where North is for the company, you've done something very important because you're giving the direction. But if you don't start moving north, if you don't start mapping and establishing milestone, you're never going to be getting there. You're never going to be getting there.
People start what-ifing themselves, all right? They say, all right, I got this great idea, but what if I do all this work and it doesn't work? What if I put in all this time to become an excellent employee and I don't get promoted? What if I put in all this work to become an excellent salesman and I don't sell? What if? And I'll tell you what if. What if you don't do shit? Where are you going to be? Because it isn't going to be any better than where you are now. All right? It's very easy for people who are in the beginning levels of success or the beginning levels of their success journey to tell themselves stories that other people's circumstances are better than theirs, that the other people have rich parents, they've got luck, they've got better circumstances, they've got less obstacles. And they say, and I understand, that, if you just do the work, you'll get the result. But what if? Okay? They want to believe it, they want to succeed, but at the end of the day, they don't do it because they talk themselves out of it. All right? This is easily the number one thing that keeps people from succeeding. It's the number one thing that keeps people where they are. It's the number one thing that keeps people broke. It's the number one thing that keeps people in a situation of frustration or, basically regret. And what ends up happening is that they end up going through their life, accepting what they're dealt, doing what they're told, and they end up at 50, 60 years old wondering what the f happened. Well, I'm going to tell you what happened. You talked yourself out of going after what you were supposed to go after. You talked yourself out of your purpose. You talked yourself out of the idea that success is cause and effect, not magic luck or magic fairy dust. That's what happened, okay? And that's the number one thing that keeps people from succeeding. It's the what-if story that they tell themselves over and over and over again as to why they can't move forward and other people can. Why, if they do the work, it still isn't going to work out. Success is easy, guys. It's easy. It's making a plan and executing the plan every day. It's that easy. It's that easy, okay? And people will be like, Andy, it's not that easy. There's got to be luck to it. My friend, he created the Super Snuggie snowball machine, and it made $100 million in one day. Well, you ain't your friend. You're a regular dude just like me, and I'm telling you, and you can choose to believe whatever the you want to believe, but the reality is this. Make a plan, work the plan. Make a plan, work the plan. Make a plan, work the plan. And whenever the plan doesn't work, you change the plan. That's called failure. It's called learning a lesson. It's called adjusting. On the run. You are not going to have a perfect plan from start to finish just because you thought of an idea. That's reality. Okay, so when we talk about the what-if story you're telling yourself, the what-if story you're trying to justify your fear with, it's bullshit. It's bullshit. If you do the work and you do it for a long enough time and you have at least average intelligence, you will be successful. Period. End of story. Now you can accept that, or you can go out and you can look for all the little exceptions. You can look for the glory stories, the guys who make millions of dollars in 1 year, which they don't. It doesn't happen to the average guy. You know, you can go out there and say, oh, they got lucky. Look, that's all luck. It's all luck. Or you can accept the fact that for people who don't get lucky like us, that there is a way to still do it, which is to make a plan and execute the plan and do that relentlessly, consistently over the course of 10 years, and you'll be where you want to be. All right, I'm not a smart person. I'm not overly intelligent. I just make a list every day and execute on it. I don't worry about what if. I don't think about what if I do this and it doesn't work out the way I want. I know that it'll work out in some way, and because I'm smart enough to adjust the plan on the way, I know that it will at least end up somewhere close to where I want to be. It's not that hard. Quit overcomplicating it. There are no what ifs. If you do the work, the result will be there. Period.
Well, the last and the most valuable lesson as an entrepreneur I learned was about the value of execution. Way too many people spend too much time thinking about the vision. We are taught that you have to build a better mousetrap. Every venture capitalist will tell you that to be a successful entrepreneur, you need a breakthrough innovation. Well, you have to assume none of us, or at least most of us, are not the smartest people in the world. There are lots and lots of great inventors out there. How are we going to be the person who's going to always build a better mousetrap? Well, to be successful, you don't have to build a better mousetrap. You just have to build a different mousetrap. And as long as you are executing well, the business always comes down to block and tackle. It's not about the great vision, it's always about the great execution. And you can always succeed by out-executing your competitors, not necessarily having the best product in the marketplace. And I think the Microsoft is a great example where they took a same product that other people may have had, but they executed substantially better, and today they're the market leader.
Just do it. Just pick up a camera and start shooting something. Don't wait to be asked, because nobody's going to ask you. And don't wait for the perfect conditions, because they'll never be perfect. It's a little bit like having a child. If you wait until the right time to have a child, you'll die childless. And I think filmmaking is very much the same thing. You just have to take the plunge and just start shooting something. Even if it's bad, you can always hide it, but you will have learned something.
Okay, the question is, do you, the person asking the question, have what it takes to do what Dan did? You never know. But no one does know initially, up front. You have to try. You have to swing at the plate. You have to, take risk. You have to be willing to sacrifice. You have to be willing to make commitment. And just do it. I keep saying that. I mean, it's simplistic. It sounds like I'm, I haven't thought the question to it, but that's not the point at all. The point is, after 21 years of coaching and after almost 45 years of doing this myself and being a high-performance person in 6 decades, I realized you just got to do it.
I had done the Fantastic Four and the X-Men, and my publisher said, hey, they're doing well, do another one. So I came up with Spider-Man, and I said to him, I got this great idea. I want to call him Spider-Man, and he's a teenager. So I gave him the idea, and he said, Stan, that is the worst idea I have ever heard. He said, first of all, people hate spiders. You can't call a hero Spider-Man. Secondly, he said, he can't be a teenager. Teenagers are only sidekicks. And finally, he can't have personal problems. Don't you know what a superhero is? So he wouldn't let me do it. One day we had a book we were going to kill called Amazing Fantasy. When you're going to do the last issue, nobody cares what you put in it. Just to get it out of my system, I put Spider-Man in the book, and we sold it, and it was a bestseller. So my publisher called me in a couple weeks later and said, Stan, you remember that character Spider-Man that you and I liked so much? Why don't you do a series of it? And that's how Spidey was born.
I believe desire and will to win is everything. I don't know why I'm like I am, but my butt's always burning. There's always something say, Art, dadgummit, you're supposed to go for it. Art, dadgummit, you're supposed to be somebody. You're supposed to make a difference with your life. What does the $500,000 a year person do? The $50,000 a year person doesn't do. You look at the outside and study those two individuals, everything seems to be the same. They both are the same sex, they both are the same age, they have the same training, the same positions, the same contract, the same fringe benefits. They both are successful, they work hard, they're good family people, make tough commitments. But what's the difference? What does the $500,000 a year person do? The $50,000 a year person doesn't do. He pays the price and a little bit more. He works hard and a little bit more. He's loyal to the company and a little bit more. He believes in a little bit more. He makes money and a little bit more. He saves money and a little bit more. If you want to win in these United States, you got to be tough and you can't quit. The last thing I'll talk to you about today in building this winning edge is, folks, if you want to win in business, you got to be a leader. Leadership is everything. You show me anything in these United States that win, I'll show you a leader at work. You show me a successful church, Boy Scout troop, club, football team, business, I'll show you something run by a leader. See, I thought at one time in my life you had to be smart to win. I used to have these smart people that dress so pretty and talk so pretty and use these big words. They just intimidated me, and I said, Art, you can't ever be that good. Why don't you just throw in the towel and go on back and coach football for a living? And I found two things out about smart people. I think it's almost impossible for a smart person to win in business in America today, because I find smart people spend their whole lifetime figuring things out. They're always trying to figure out an easier way and a quicker way. And another thing I found out about smart people is they just don't get around to doing nothing. And see, somebody like Art Williams, everybody said, well, he can't do it. And somebody like that can't do it, but he does it. See, folks, I want you to know almost everybody in America almost does enough to win. They almost get there. They almost are over the hump. They almost have it going. They almost, in everything they do, almost is a way of life to almost everybody in America. But the winners do it. What do? They do whatever it takes to get the job done. They do it and do it and do it and do it and do it until the job gets done. And then they talk about how great it is to be somebody they're proud of. We need leaders in America who can do it. If you want to become somebody, do it. If you want to go in business for yourself, do it. If you want to become financially independent, do it. I hear too much talk in these United States. Everybody can talk a good game. We need people in America who can do it. I go all over this country with A.L. Williams, and I have people say, Art, you can count on me. Wonderful. Just do it. Art, I guarantee you this is my last stop. I'm going to win now. Super duper. Just do it. Art, if I could just have one good month and get the ball going, I know I could make it big. Super. Just do it. Art, if I could just pay off this debt, I could really go. Great. Just do it. Art, if I could just sell my house. Do it. But houses ain't selling. Do it anyway. Art, I'm not making any money. What can I do? You just do it. Do what, Art? You do it and do it and do it. Art, I guarantee I'm going to win this contest. Super duper. Just do it. Art, I'm over the hump now. Watch my smoke. Great. Just do it. Art, I want to make it so bad I can taste it. What I do? You just do it. Art, I'm a vice president now. Can I quit doing it? No. Art, I don't know if I can keep on keeping on. I'm really hurting. What I do? You just do it. Do what, Art? You do it and do it and do it. Art, all my life I wanted to be somebody important. Well, what do it then? Art, I'm going to save money so I don't have to go through this again. Great. Just do it. Art, I don't feel like I've had enough training. What I do? You just do it. Art, my manager don't give me no help. What I do? You just do it. Art, you don't understand. I was Mr. Everything at my former company. You don't mean I have to start off down at the bottom and do it, do you? Yep, you really got to do it. Art, what's the primary difference between winners and losers? The winners do it. They do it and do it and do it and do it until the job gets done. And then they talk about how great it is to finally have achieved something unique, and how glad they are that they didn't quit like everybody else, and how wonderful it is to finally be somebody they're proud of and make a difference with their life.
When you look at the accomplishments of accomplished people, and you say, boy, that must have been really hard. You know, when you look at something that looks hard, that was probably easy. And conversely, when you look at something that looks easy, that was probably hard. And so you're never going to know which is which until you actually go and do it. So just go and do it, try, learn from it. You'll fail at some things. That's a learning experience that you need so that you can take that on to the next experience. And don't let people who you may respect and who you believe know what they're talking about, don't let them tell you it can't be done. Because often they will tell you it can't be done, and it's just because they don't have the courage to try it.
It was a lot harder to get started when I was growing up and wanting to be a movie director, almost at 12 years old, because when I first picked up a camera, in order to get a...
Where were you living when you first...
I was in Scottsdale,
You were in Arizona?
You know, I was looking for a way to fulfill the requirements to get a photography merit badge. I was in the Boy Scouts of America. And the manual said...
Did you want to be a filmmaker before that?
No, I didn't want to be a filmmaker at all. I just wanted to be an Eagle Scout. That was my only aspiration, was want to get the highest rank I could in scouting. And so on my way to being an Eagle Scout, I had to get a certain, requisite amount of merit badges, and one of them I wanted to get was photography. And the requirement was to tell a story with still photographs. And my dad's camera broke. He did not have a still camera. Like the Brownie Kodak that he had wasn't working. So but he did have an 8mm Kodak 8mm movie camera, and I went to the Scoutmaster and I said, can we change the rules just so I can tell a story on film, because we don't have a still camera? And the Scoutmaster said, go ahead and do it. So I got 3 minutes worth of film, which is, by the way, all of those cameras used to take, these little 3-minute rolls of film, and I made this Western on a weekend. And I showed
How did you edit? Did you camera cut?
In camera cut, a little shot of my friends in cowboy outfits robbing a stagecoach, which was sort of an exhibit out front of a place called Pinnacle Peak Patio, a restaurant which is still there outside of Scottsdale.
How did you know to camera cut?
I just figured, you'd do a shot in this direction of bad guys with their guns and masks on, and my sisters played the damsels in distress in the stagecoach, giving away their costume jewelry, well, my mother's jewelry. I didn't tell her we took my mom's jewelry to give away to 12-year-olds, pretending to be robbers. And I made this little movie and then showed it to the Boy Scout troop that weekend, and they all went crazy for it. They screamed and applauded, and I suddenly got bitten by that bug, and I wanted to do this for the rest of my life. It was became so clear to me. But it was hard then, because to make movies you had to pay for film and pay for developing of the film. So I had to go to my dad to say, Dad, I'll earn some money, but I can't earn all the money because I go to school. I can't get a job to earn the money to pay for all this equipment. So my dad helped me. However, today it's easier. Today, everybody seems to have a camcorder. Everybody has some high-8 digital camera, and it's a lot easier to get your hands on.
You can buy that editing program for the computer.
You can buy a software program for the computer and go out and make a movie and tell a story and figure out who you are as a storyteller. And so in a sense, it's easier today for young people to at least prove to themselves this is what they want to do for the rest of their lives, or at least in the interim of the rest of their lives. And it's also, if you get bitten by that bug, you can make a lot of little movies, and somehow those films will get seen by people, hopefully, that will hire you to do a music video someday, or a TV commercial, or a television show, or someday a feature film.
Essentially, and I would say this to anybody, is that, it's really, it's easy to embrace hopelessness when things seem insurmountable. And yet, it's actually just a matter of time until all of the elements come together for things to be all right. I mean, I believe that, most difficult situations will resolve themselves if you are persistent and if you don't give up entirely. And that's what I never did. I never gave up.
We were forced in the beginning. I wish I could say we were geniuses and said we're going to start our own company. That's not what happened. In the beginning, we went to every single label, and every single label shut their door on us. The genius thing that we did was we didn't give up. We didn't say, because these guys, we use that what do they know approach. We didn't give up at that point. I think that, that was the genius thing we did. We started selling our own CDs and we built our own buzz, and then the record company came back to us. So now we had a different negotiation. It wasn't the same artist label relationship. Now we retain ownership in our own company, and it was the best thing for us.
One of the greatest pieces of advice I've ever gotten in my life was from my mom. When I was a little kid, there was a kid who was bugging me, in school. And she said, okay, I'm going to tell you what to do. She said, the kid's bugging you. He puts his hands on you. You pick up the nearest rock, or whatever you can get your hands on, and you lay him out. Hey, Mom! And I did. And I felt better. And it worked. And so, for me, that was a great lesson, because someone had invaded my space, invaded my being, and was doing something against me that I didn't want to be done. So I took control of the situation and I ran with it. And many years later, after being, turned into a product, by a very huge corporation that had their hands all over me, and I couldn't escape it, I promised myself that I would continue to move forward and do my best not to compromise in any way whatsoever, not allow anyone to put their hands on me.
Practice faithful persistence. It means never, ever, ever give up. Chicken Soup for the Soul was rejected by 144 publishers. 144 publishers said, we don't want to publish a collection of short stories. The title's stupid, Chicken Soup for the Soul, what does that mean? People don't buy collections of short stories. There's never been, successful chain of doing that. So literally, we spent 14 months trying to find a publisher. And we'd go to New York with our agent, and eventually our agent gave us the book back and said, I can't sell this. So we went to the National Booksellers Association convention down in Anaheim. We went from booth to booth to booth for 3 days. And there were 4,000 publishers represented there. And we go, would you publish our book? Would you publish our book? Would you publish our book? And we got no, 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 no. It was late on the third day that a little publisher from Florida, after we'd gotten over 144 rejections, said, we'll read it. And then they said, we said, well, how many copies do you think we'll sell? After they said, yeah, we'll buy it. A couple weeks later, they said, we'll publish it. And they said, well, maybe 20,000 if we're lucky. And we said, our goal is to sell 1.5 million in a year and a half. Now, have you ever told someone your dream and had them laugh out loud at you? He laughed out loud. Now, if we had given up after 100 publishers had said no, I wouldn't be standing here today. Wouldn't have happened. And so you've got to be willing to persevere. Because we didn't take no. See, when the world says no, you say next. Let's practice that. If I say no, you say? Yes. Absolutely. There's only 5 or 6 billion people out there you can go and ask, right? There's over 4,000 publishers just here in the state of California. So what we have is this endless possibility, but you have to persevere. It's as if the universe tests our commitment. And so today we have 147 titles in print. We sold over 115 million copies. We're in 47 languages. And over $1 billion worth of Chicken Soup for the Soul books have been sold worldwide. So if you're willing to decide what you want, believe it's possible, consciously envision the future, feel the feelings of what it would feel like if you had achieved this goal, you can have anything, and then you take action, both obvious actions and inspired actions. You can do anything.
If you're convinced that you're going to fail or fall or get hurt, that will come to fruition because that's what you're visualizing. I never I was willing to get hurt along the way, but I didn't visualize myself getting hurt along the way. And I think that's what stops a lot of people, and that's really what separates a lot of people from being world champions or from being as good as they can, because they stop at some point saying, oh no, I am not capable of this, or I'll probably get hurt doing this. And if you approach anything with that hesitation, you're gonna fail. I always approached it like, this is going to work. I'm going to figure this out. even if it takes me hundreds of attempts. And I wasn't, you know, the idea of falling and getting back up again, that didn't really bother me at all.
Unfortunately, there are people with the talent that don't have the money. I kind of look at it like, if any of you seen Cool Runnings when they tried to raise money to go bobsleighing, and all the people that they approached just laughed at them. And, you know, it was the same for us, you know, when my dad would say, well, you know, my son's gonna be the first Black Formula 1 driver. Everyone kind of thought, yeah, right. But, you know, he kept going and it happened. You know, we got there, so never give up.
Good question. At what age should one give up on their dream? Never. Goethe said this, Henry Ford said this, Rockefeller said this, you're only as young or as old as your dreams. And as long as you still have dreams and visions and goals, they keep you young. It's the most amazing darn thing. One of the great stories is the story of Kentucky Fried Chicken. Once upon a time, there was a little boy named Harlan, and Harlan was taught by his mother a special recipe down south in the United States on how to make chicken. When he grew up, he got a job as a short order cook in a small cafe. And he asked his boss if his boss would be interested in this chicken recipe. And his boss said, sure, throw it together, see what the people say. Turned out that everybody liked this special chicken recipe with all these secret herbs and spices. Well, for the rest of his career, right up till he was 65 years old, he either worked in little cafes or sometimes he owned a little cafe. When he was 65, he had a little cafe and he was making his chicken, and he had people coming from all around to eat his chicken. And the highways department built a highway past his little restaurant, his little chicken place, and put him out of business. They cut off the road so nobody could get to it. About the same time, he received a Social Security check, his first Social Security check at the age of 65. And he became angry. He said, I'm 65 years old, but I'm not ready to give up on my dreams. What do I have to sell? And he realized the one thing that had kept him going all those years, the mainstay of his little career, was his mother's recipe of 17 or 18 herbs and spices. So he put them together in little bags, one bag per chicken, and he put his pots and pans in the back of his old car, and he started driving up and down the eastern seaboard, going from cafe to cafe to cafe, to ask them if they would pay him 5 cents a bag for his magical combination of herbs and spices. He called on more than 1,000 restaurants, sleeping in his car week after week, and finally he came across a little restaurant in Toronto that agreed to pay him 5 cents a bag for his herbs and spices. This is back in the 60s. And because of exchange controls, they had to give the money to the Red Cross. That was the beginning of the Kentucky Fried Chicken empire. We began to sell this recipe more and more. People began to put it on their signs. A major corporation came along and said we could make a real business of this. So they embraced him. They built the franchise. They made him one of the best known people in the world. When he died some years later, he was worth more than $50 million because he never gave up on his dreams. So I don't know if you're 65 and broke and living in your car with pots and pans with no money, but wherever you are, you never give up on your dreams.
Stay in front of the competition, because there's two ways in this industry. You move with it or it moves you. And I've seen so many sad stories across the decade where chefs have just got lazy, given up and lost that hunger to be competitive because it's the best job in the world. That's not really a job, it's a passion. Because when you're rubbing shoulders, and here we are now, 10 years later, and I've got a restaurant next door to Jamie Oliver's, and we're both literally 2 meters apart. Phenomenal chef, and we keep each other on our toes. So that's exciting for me, and that's been the one key issue across the 10 years of filming Kitchen Nightmares. Never, ever, ever give up.